Hello, my name is Tom Limbaugh, and this is a short video to demonstrate a command line approach to editing and compiling a simple program. In this case, an assembly language program, and I'll use the Vim editor and create a make file to demonstrate a typical workflow if we're editing and compiling without the use of an IDE. And if you're not aware of that term, you should be probably, but IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. IDEs are commonly used nowadays, and there are many of them depending on the language and platform and framework that you might be programming in whatever you may be using for software development. But because IDEs automate much of the workflow for development, software development, many developers are unaware of some of the origins of how software was originally edited and compiled and how projects were built. So these are all concepts that are really important to understand what's going on under the hood in a development environment. So for a programmer who's just starting out, someone getting started in coding, it's important to understand that we don't always have to have a fancy interface to actually edit and compile and run programs. So that's why I made this video, just for awareness. And if you so desire, you like to create software in a more organic manner, so to speak, that's good to know, good information to know. So first we'll start. What we can do here is just create a directory. I'm going to edit a file, and in this case, to speed things up, I have a couple files already open that I can copy and paste from. But I'll show you how to, open a Vim editor, edit the file, save it, and then from the command line, we're doing all this from the command line. We can compile the program. We can actually do that by creating what's called a make file. So let's start off. Let's just create a directory, which is, by the way, I'm doing all this on a Mac. This is all pretty typical. I'm using the Terminal app in a MacBook Pro, and this is all kind of a typical flow. I think a lot of Mac users and Unix style operating system people who favor that type of operating system, this would be pretty common stuff to see in a Mac. So we're going to use the Terminal app on a Mac. We'll make a directory for this Hello World program and cd into that directory. And if I just list what's in there, I should see a blank directory. There shouldn't be anything in there yet. So now we'll use the Vim editor. And if you're not familiar, I'm assuming you're not familiar with using a command line style editor, but Vim, again, is common on a MacBook or for Mac users. But Vim, I believe it just comes, that's one of the editors that's installed automatically by default with a Mac and macOS 10 system. But anyways, to open up a file, we're just going to type Vim and the name of the new file. Vim will create the file if it doesn't already exist. If it does already exist, it'll open it, and that's assuming in the current directory path or a path that you specify. So if we do Vim Hello World, and I'm going to save this as a .s file. That would be the extension for an assembly language file. And we're not going to get into any of the specifics of assembly language here. Like I said, I have a file open, and we'll just copy and paste it once we open it. But if I type Vim and the file name with the extension, that's going to open up this Vim editor. If you try to do anything right away, you really can't type until you get into insert mode. So if you just type which you won't see on the screen other than you see it go into insert mode at the bottom, but now I can actually type something, or in this case, copy and paste. I can go to some code that I have here and copy and paste that in the editor here. And this is just, I know if you're not familiar with assembly language, it's going to look like a bunch of nonsense here right now, but that's okay. We're just going to assume that we were creating a program. We typed all this source code in here. And when I'm done to save and quit, or to write and quit, getting out of the Vim editor, I can hit the escape key on a Mac, top left corner, and when I go to type now, that will immediately send my cursor to the command line at the bottom, and I can type : W for write, Q for quit, and hit enter. And now I've created this hello world.s file, this source file with the assembly code. I do another list now. Now I see my file in there. And we're going to edit one more file. I could actually just type a couple commands here, and bottom line or command line commands here, and compile this and link it and run it. By the way, this assembly language program, all it does is types the infamous hello world to the terminal output. But if I wanted to, I could compile it and run this file and just do it from the command line with individual lines. Basically, there's an assembly command or assemble command and a linker command. But instead, I'm going to show you how to make a make file. And make doesn't come by default installed or enabled, I should say, on a Mac system. But if you install Xcode, or in particular if you install the Xcode command line tools, or developer command line tools, I guess they're called something like that, basically that will enable or install the tool that you need to run what we call a make file, or run the make command. And by default, there's 3 different options for file name that it's going to look for the make command. It would look for either GNU make or make. If you're not sure what that means, that's GNU or GNU make file, or make file with a lowercase m, or make file with an uppercase m. Those are the 3. It'll look for the first one of those that it finds in the current directory if you just run the make command. I don't even have to specify the command from the file name from the command line, unless I'm using a name other than one of those 3. So just to make it easier, I'm going to, the file that I create here, and I'm going to use Vim again to create a file and edit it. I am going to use the make file name with a lowercase m, and it's going to throw me into this Vim editor again, and it's going to create the file. But if I use this name, make file, what I was trying to say a minute ago is that when I run the make command, it's automatically going to look, that's one of the 3 file names it'll look for. So I don't have to force it to look for a different file name within the directory. So now we're in the Vim editor again with this make file. Type I, and I'm in insert mode now. And once again, I have a file over on the side here, which I don't think you'll see it in the video, but I'm just going to copy and paste a couple of these commands that these were the commands that I said I could actually just type from the command line if I wanted to compile and then link it. So what you wouldn't see if I was doing it from the command line is you wouldn't see this, because what this specifies in a make file is your target file. The first one on the left is your target, and then this is a dependency. And for that reason, make files actually work basically from the bottom up. So when you look at that's not how I would type them if I was doing it from the command line. But in the make file, I would actually specify the target. That's the final name of the binary or the executable that I want to have or to use when I run the program. And then the dependency would be this hello world object file. The actual command I would type on the command line would just be this. I say just that, but some extra stuff you have to type in there on a Mac system is a little more to it than, let's say, on a Linux system. But again, we're not getting into the specifics of assembly language right now. Just trying to show you the workflow of creating a source file and compiling it, linking it, and running it without an IDE. So here we would actually, the make file or the make command would actually look for this assemble command first, and then with the target output being this object file, and then it would come up here, and with the target file being hello world, it would look for the object file as its dependency or requirement, prerequisite, I guess you could say. So at any rate, I've copy and pasted this in here. Again, we don't have to know what all this means right now. We're just learning what the workflow is. We've created a source file using the Vim editor. Now we're creating a make file using the Vim editor. And again, once I'm done here, I can hit the escape key upper left on the Mac keyboard at the bottom, which automatically that's where my cursor is going to go when I start typing after hitting escape. I'm going to type colon, W for write, Q for quit, hit enter, and now I should have a hello world source file and a make file. Now from the prompt here, if I just type, assume I'm in the same directory here, because I've used one of the 3 default names, it's going to look for the make command will automatically look for that make file. And I can type make, and it goes ahead. By the way, I've used flags in these commands that show you the output when it runs them. So you can see that it actually runs the assembler command first, and then the linker command. And now we actually should have a binary and an executable in the same directory that we can actually run the program that prints hello world. So if I do a list again, yes, now I have this is my target output binary, because that's what I specified for the name. I could have specified anything, but its dependency was this hello world dot O, which is the object file, and then that file's dependency was the original source file of the assembly code. And this was the make file that I put in there. So now I have the binary. If I just type with a period slash to run an executable in Mac, that's what you would do, or Unix style system. And then the target name, which is hello world. I don't really have to type the whole thing. I can start typing it and hit tab. And now if I run this, voila, it prints hello world. So anyways, I hope this is helpful to someone who's kind of getting started in programming and software development to really understand the origins of editing, compiling, linking, running code. This is I hate to say this, like in the old days, that was the only way to do this, and that was after they got that was actually considered pretty modern at the time, because prior to that they were using punch cards to input programs. And so this is, once they had a terminal to use, this is how a programmer would would develop and build projects. One other thing I wanted to bring up is why use a make file. There's actually a few different tools out there that you can use, actually many different tools for building script type files that you can run to build your executable. And someone might say, well, there's only 2 lines in there, why don't I just type it from the command line? We're learning the workflow, because realistically you might have a project that has many could be dozens of files where one is a dependency of another, and so it's it's good to understand that, but the IDE is doing for you a lot of times. You're creating this project and you have different files and different class files you might be creating, whatnot. And what's important to understand is the IDE is actually sort of automating that process of making that make file, of building that software for you. But it's important to understand how to do that yourself. And, as I like to say, organically, create a build like that. There's a lot going on behind the scenes when you're using one of those IDE tools. Yeah, they've made things very, very convenient and allow people to work much faster. But it's important to understand where that all came from or how it started to be necessary. So, anyways, I hope you enjoy this video and it's helpful. And thanks, and watch for more.